Welcome to the deep dive.
Hello?
Today, we're really jumping into the world of Finnick Odair from the Hunger Games.
Yeah, a really fascinating character. We've got quite a mix of sources here. Prezzies, fan wikis, some interesting Reddit threads, character analyses.
Right, and the plan is to sort of unpack Finnick, look beyond that, surface charm.
Get past the handsome, flirty guy with the sugar cube.
Exactly. Explore his complexities, his impact, what was really going on with him.
Well, first impressions, he's definitely presented as charismatic, good-looking. The sources, especially the fan ones, certainly pick up on that.
Oh, definitely. But like you said, there's so much more underneath.
Absolutely. A much richer and, frankly, darker story emerges when you dig in.
Okay, so maybe let's start with his background. District 4.
Good place to start. It often gets lumped in with the career districts.
Right, which comes with certain assumptions, training academies, volunteering culture.
But some of the discussions we looked at, particularly on Reddit, question that label. Is District 4 really a career district in the same way as 1 and 2?
That's an interesting distinction. What's the argument there?
Well, the idea is that their tributes are strong, yes, but maybe it's more down to their industry fishing.
So the physical demands of the job itself build strength and skill.
Exactly. Less about a formal, glory-seeking training system like in 1 and 2, and more about the environment they grow up in. They're likely better fed, more physically capable just from daily life.
That makes a lot of sense. Someone pointed out even non-careers, like Katniss got training before the Quell. It wasn't exclusive.
And another point raised was that calling them careers can sort of paint them all as ruthless capital sympathizers.
Which might not be fair. There's still kids thrown into this horrific situation.
Absolutely. There was even speculation that volunteering in 4 might sometimes be protective, an older kid stepping up for a younger one. Different dynamics, maybe.
Okay, and sticking with District 4, the Trident.
Ah, yes, Finnick's weapon.
It's so strongly associated with him and the district. The sources suggest it's linked to fishing, right? Spearfishing, maybe?
Seems very likely. Someone mentioned spearfishing is seen as quite skilled, even prestigious in some contexts.
So taking that practical tool into the arena.
It becomes symbolic, but also really effective. Needs skill, strength.
And maybe the capital played that up, the whole fishing district image.
Quite possibly. And we know he got one as a sponsor gift in his games, which was obviously huge for him.
Which brings us to his win. He was only 14.
Incredible.
It does make you wonder, why him? Did anyone older volunteer that year?
Well, the sources don't give a definitive answer, but theories abound. Maybe he was just the best candidate. Simple as that.
Or maybe District 4's volunteering thing isn't as rigid. Perhaps no one stepped up that specific year.
That's plausible. Or, the slightly cheekier suggestion from Reddit was maybe the other boys just couldn't compete with his charm even then.
Could be. But seriously, winning at 14, his skill with that trident must have been phenomenal.
Had to be. It speaks volumes about his natural talent, maybe strategic thinking even then.
But that victory, it wasn't the end of his struggle. Far from it.
No. That's where things take a really dark turn, the Captor's exploitation.
Yeah, this is grim. After he won, President Snow forced him into prostitution.
He was only 16, just 2 years after the games, and the threat was always against his loved ones if he refused. It's laid out quite starkly in the analyses.
The cruelty is just. And he had to maintain this public persona, didn't he? Like he was enjoying it, this desirable victor.
Imagine the humiliation. One source really emphasized the disgust he must have felt, having his body used like that and then having to fake pleasure.
Awful. But even in that horror, he was strategic. He wasn't just a victim.
No, he wasn't passive. He used that forced closeness to gather secrets from his capital clients.
Working from the inside out, basically.
Exactly. He learned things, political secrets, dirt on powerful people, information that later became crucial for the rebellion.
Like how Snow poisoned his rivals to get power.
That was a key piece of intel he uncovered and later revealed. Shows incredible strength, really, to turn that situation around, even in a small way.
Which makes his love for Annie Cresta feel even more vital.
Oh, absolutely. She was his anchor. Also a victor from District 4, deeply traumatized by her own game.
Their connection seems like this pure thing in the middle of all the capital's ugliness.
It really does. And it wasn't just him protecting her, which is often how it's seen. The sources suggest she was his rock, too.
Supporting him through the prostitution ordeal?
Yes, offering him genuine connection and support when everything else was fake and transactional. Seeing her mental state after her games was clearly agony for him.
It highlights his protective side, but also his own need for that love and support. They eventually got married, didn't they?
They did. A small moment of actual happiness.
And despite all that trauma, he became a really important figure in the rebellion.
He really did. He didn't just, break completely. He allied with Katniss and Peeta in the Quarter Quell.
and made that huge sacrifice letting Mags die in the fog to save PETA, essentially.
A brutal choice, but it showed his priorities. He protected his allies. And then later, he was vital for rebel propaganda.
Using that charisma, but this time against the Capitol.
Exactly. And revealing Snow's secrets publicly, that was huge.
There was even that theory, maybe not strict canon, but discussed online, that Plutarch Heavensbee saw him as a potential Mockingjay figure himself.
Yeah, a potential figurehead. It shows the kind of presence he had, the power of his story. Even if he wasn't the Mockingjay, his contribution was immense.
Looking at his personality, it's such a mix, isn't it? The charm, the humor.
He kept that wit, even in dark times. You see it in his banter with Katniss.
But underneath, so much pain and deep loyalty.
Yeah, defo.
Yeah.
But he wasn't unbreakable. One analysis really pointed out how Annie's capture was his breaking point.
After everything else he'd endured, that was what shattered him.
It seemed to be. It showed that vulnerability beneath the polished exterior. He was fiercely loyal, though. Remember him insisting on helping Johanna and the Quell?
Yeah, wouldn't leave people behind. And his rebellion style, it wasn't like Johanna's or Gale's, all fiery and confrontational.
No, it was quieter, more strategic, working from within, using the secrets he'd gathered, undermining from the inside.
But still capable of being ruthless when needed.
Oh, absolutely. In his games, in the Quell, he was a survivor, through and through, not just a pretty face.
Which makes his ending just so tragic.
His death in the Capitol, fighting those lizard mutts,
Yeah.
it was devastating. For the rebellion, obviously, but especially for Annie.
A huge loss. And he died protecting the squad, didn't he?
Right to the end.
Mhm.
Consistent with who he was, that image of him seeing his loved ones just before heartbreak.
And he never met a son.
No, born after he died. It's just layer upon layer of tragedy.
It really is. But despite all the darkness, his story sticks with you, doesn't it?
It does. I think it's that capacity for love, for loyalty, that resilience, even after everything he went through.
He was so much more than the Capitol tried to make him. More than just the charming victor.
Definitely. A complex person shaped by horrific trauma, but defined by his connections, his fight.
His whole journey really hammers home the cost of the Capitol's cruelty, the human cost.
Yeah, and it also makes you think about how people can hold on to their humanity, how they can fight back even after suffering so much.
So, thinking about Finnick, what part of his story really stands out most? And does it change how you see the whole world of the Hunger Games? Something to definitely keep mulling.
Absolutely. A lot to think about.
Well, thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.